Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea. And what day is it? It's game day. It's the day that a brand new episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out. It depends on where you live in the world, I understand. But for where I am, midnight tonight. So I am 8 hours away. 8 hours away right now from the new episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I am very excited. I mean, everybody should be 8 hours away. For me, it's going to be at midnight tonight. And I'm very excited. And, you know, let me just highlight again. So this is our pregame show. We're going to be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. What do we think we're going to expect to see tonight? What are we looking forward to seeing? What are we nervous about seeing? All that kind of stuff. Now, I got to say, and I've said this before, but I should say it again. I have enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier. I've looked forward to watching every episode every week, but I haven't been like super hooked on it the way that WandaVision got me super hooked on it. You know what I mean? Until last week's episode. And last week's episode took all the elements that the first 3 episodes had been laying out and took all those elements and then coalesced it all into one incredible episode that is honestly one of the best episodes, maybe the best episode of Disney Plus television they've had so far. And I include in that Mandalorian Season 2, WandaVision, and obviously Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm not saying the Falcon and Winter Soldier has been better than Mandalorian, but I'm saying that one episode has been maybe the best episode they have had so far. I mean, it was so great, the drama of it, the character work in it, the action, and then, of course, cherry on top, that big ending, that scene of John Walker with the blood-drenched shield that he just used to murder somebody with. Absolutely incredible. So that's what we're going to do here today, guys. We're looking forward to tonight's episode, for some of you tomorrow morning's episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If you guys have an observation, a thought, a comment, a theory, whatever it is, or a question, just use the super chat feature here on YouTube. We don't do what we normally do. You don't use the tip link that's in the description. We use that for the John Campea Show, but for here on these special videos, including, you know, the spoiler discussions and our pregame shows, just use the super chat feature if you want to send that in. You'll be getting your comment or thought or theory on the show, and you're supporting the channel at the same time, and we all thank you very much for that. So let's not waste any time here, guys. Let's just spend the whole day taking in what you guys have to say about this. So let's get over and start taking your thoughts here. All right, we're going to start things off here with Jetfire97, who writes in, I think Bucky may have to remove his arm to escape danger. Like if it's stuck or under debris, unlike how his old arm was vice gripped in Civil War. That's actually not a bad theory. Like, yes, it was a great moment in and of itself when we saw Io remove his arm. But that also kind of felt a little bit like it was planting a seed. And that may, knowing he has that ability to do that, may come into play a little bit later. So I wouldn't doubt that at all, Jetfire. That's actually a pretty good theory. All right, next up, Timothy Platt writes, Bucky versus Walker is probably the closest we're going to get to Daredevil versus the Punisher in the MCU, and I cannot wait. Well, I mean, it's not just going to be Bucky versus Walker. It's going to be Bucky and Sam versus Walker. Remember, we saw in the preview, Sam, Bucky, Walker facing off. Walker saying, you don't want to do this. And Bucky going, yeah, we really do. And I'm like, I'm all about this. Now, listen, if you're going to put that in the preview, I will say this. I'm going to be a little bit pissed off if they promise that in the preview and then we get to the episode and they're about to fight and then something else happens and they all go their separate ways. I'm going to find that to be a pretty cheap trick using that in the marketing. I'll be a little bit upset. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be a little bit upset about that. Because maybe they want to save that big fight for episode 6. I don't know, but you promised it in this trailer, so we better get that tonight. And I think it's going to be throw down, all kinds of awesome. All right. Let's see here. Extreme Nation writes, Walker on trial and be named U.S. agent. Well, I'm not quite sure how that's a punishment. If you're on trial, you then go to prison. So I don't know if he's, but I do think maybe at some point he starts calling himself something else. He may realize himself, I'm not worthy to be called Captain America. I'll go by U.S. agent or something like that. I don't know. Something along those lines. We do all expect him to eventually go by U.S. agent. Anyway, Dino Vader writes, there will supposedly be a big cameo in episode 5. Some people say. I mean, whether that's true or not, we don't know. But there is a rumor about that, but it is just that, just a rumor. There will supposedly be a big cameo in episode 5. I suspect the following. At the beginning of the episode, we see old Steve Rogers watching TV, and he sees the scene with the bloody shield. Hey, listen, I've been saying all along that I think there is not a likelihood, but a good possibility that we could see old man Steve in this. Now, remember, too, there was that interview that Wyatt Russell just did with BBC where he maybe hinted that Chris Evans is going to pop up in this, but it all depends on how you interpret how he said what he said. But I wouldn't doubt your theory, Dino. Like I said, I've kind of suspected that we were going to see Steve Rogers pop up in this. Again, I'm not saying it's likely, just a good possibility. So whether that happens or not, we will find out. I mean, I would lose my gourd if that happened. I would love to see him pop up in here as Captain America. Unbeatable writes. So WandaVision could have used Sam and Dean. With Falcon and Winter Soldier, I can see Raymond Reddington gathering up the task force to take the power broker down. So somebody else, I don't think it was you, Unbeatable, but somebody else wrote in, it's like, what do you think? Do you think it's possible the power broker could be Raymond Reddington? And of course, it's absolute zero. That is 0% chance. That's another company. That's a character owned by Universal. So no, absolute zero chance. But I mean, if in that other universe where Raymond Reddington was actually a character under Disney's ownership, to have Raymond Reddington as the power broker, I'd be all about that. That would be great. Just another great way to bring him back, to bring that voice of Ultron, James Spader, back into the fold. Anyway, James Argento writes, I think the final shot in mid-season trailer is the first scene tonight. I mean, it's got to be near the beginning of it, right? It's got to be near the beginning of the episode, I would hope. I think Buck and Walker fight, and Sam talks them down with the help of cameo. Oh, you mean like because there's a rumor that there's a cameo, so maybe it'll be that? I don't know. Sam looked like he was ready to go at it too. It didn't look like it was just going to be Bucky. So like somebody brought this up, and let me know what you guys think. Do me a favor, okay? Help me out for you guys in the live chat. Somebody asked the other day, or somebody said that they theorized that John Walker will beat Bucky and Sam, and then they have to have another fight in episode 6. The thing is, I don't personally see any way that Walker can beat Bucky, a century experienced super soldier with a vibranium arm, and Sam Wilson. Like maybe 4 times out of 10 or 3 times out of 10, maybe he wins in a fight against Bucky, maybe. But a fight against Bucky and Sam, I don't think there's any way he wins that. Like I think 9.5 times out of 10 he uses that. So do me a favor. In the live chat, put the number 1 if you think John Walker could beat Bucky and Sam together, and put the number 2 if you think there's no way John Walker could beat Bucky and Sam together. So number 1, if you think, yeah, John Walker could win that fight. Number 2, if you think there's no way he could win that fight. I think there's no way he can win that fight. He can't take them both on. Like maybe he beats Bucky, like I said, 3 times out of 10, but yeah, I'm seeing all you guys tend to agree. Like, so I'm seeing Never Lose, Arjun, Dave, Cliff, Iconic, Derek, Cass, Fanimator, Lewis, Cliff, all that. I'm trying to read names as fast as I can. Oh, I'm seeing a couple of ones. There are a couple of ones popping up there. Like Simon is putting the number 1. Ahmad is putting number 1. It's mostly Tuesday. I just don't see how there's any way he wins that fight. It's like, yeah, he's got the super soldier serum, but so does Bucky. And Bucky's been doing this for 100 years. And he's got a vibranium arm. I don't know, man. I don't know. But against both of them, and everybody, obviously there has to be a smart ass in there. So Bleach is writing number 3. So there you go. But yeah, I don't think there's a chance. I personally don't think there's a chance. But it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. All right. Thanks for participating in that, guys. Nathakins writes, despite the fast-paced action, I've realized after episode 4, the story is actually a slow burn. Looking forward to tonight. You're right. And you know what? It's weird saying that because it is such a short series. It's only 6 episodes. But it really has been a slow burn of a story with a lot of frantic stuff happening at the same time, Nathan. So I think you're bang on with that observation. It really does feel that way. But now we're getting to the final 2 episodes. They're going to have to increase the pace of that burn a little bit if we're going to get to the end of it by the end of next week. All right, Juno Faulkner writes, I think I'm going to give the appearance of Old Man Cap under 15%. See, I got to go over 15, like not 50, so unlikely, and maybe not even over 25, but I think I would put the chances at around 25%, which means I still think it's unlikely that he pops up. But I'd go a little bit higher than 15, Juno. I'm going to go 25. Juno also writes, I'm extremely excited to see Walker get his butt kicked. Oh, I want to see him get his ass kicked so bad. It felt good watching the Dora Milaje kick his ass, but now I want to see Bucky and Sam kick his ass. I mean, I'm okay too if Sam needs to rush off to take something else and Bucky just hands his ass to him. I mean, I'm happy with that too. And by the way, I love Wyatt Russell's. I'm loving this John Walker character. I love this character in this story. And yeah, I want to see him get his ass kicked, but I love the character. He just serves this show so well. I really, really enjoy it. All right, next up, the Great Bondi writes, I have some theories for the Power Broker and are the most accurate you will hear. Number 1, Jackie Daytona, totally human bartender. Human Power Broker. 2, Michael Scarn from, of course, Threat Level Midnight. Noob Master 69, Greg Pickens. There you go. You may be onto something, Great Bondi. All right, Purple Queen writes, calling it now, Power Broker is Agatha Harkness. It's Agatha all along. I still like the idea that it's going to be Mephisto. Mephisto is the Power Broker. I am obviously being facetious, but I would dig it if it was Agatha, but obviously it's not. Hero75 writes, crazy idea. What if the surprise cameo we see isn't someone we know, but someone showing up and claiming they are the grandchild of Steve and Peggy? That's actually... Now, hold on a second. I like that. Now, I'm not saying that's a likelihood, but I like that theory. I mean, there's been nothing in the show right now that suggests that it would be like the grandchild of Steve and Peggy, but okay, well, let's follow that for a second. Maybe any child of Steve Rogers may not be a full-blown super soldier, but maybe he's got some residual, because of his dad's DNA or his grandfather's DNA. It goes down. I mean, Sharon, because a lot of us suspect if Sharon's not the Power Broker, a lot of us suspect that maybe she's at the very least working with the Power Broker. It would be a family thing. Why go to Madripoor? She's got family there. Okay, again, I'm not saying I believe that we're going to find that out tonight. I'm not saying that I believe this theory, but I do love the theory. I like that idea a lot. It would be very, very interesting if they did something like that. All right. Okay, Mary writes, are we 100% sure Ross is still Secretary of State? It's been over 5 years since we saw him in Infinity War. He has a history with Serum too. That was his whole thing in the Hulk. I still don't think it's him though. I mean, again, remember, it doesn't matter where he's been for the last 5 years. Because remember, the Power Broker had already been active and judge, jury, and executioner before Zemo ever went into prison. Right? Zemo already knew him by reputation. So that means it doesn't really matter what's happened in the last 5 years. It means Thunderbolt Ross, while being Secretary of State, while being a general in the U.S. military, while being in the public eye and being anywhere but Madripoor, would have had to have established himself and become the underground crime lord of Madripoor as the Power Broker. That just seems very unlikely. That seems unlikely. But again, I haven't heard many better theories than that, so it could end up being Thunderbolt Ross because you're right. He does have a connection to the old failed attempt at a super soldier serum, so he does have that connection. Let's see where they go with that, Mary. All right, next up. The Jedi Brandon writes, do you think John Walker could be Power Broker? No, he's never been in Madripoor. Like he's been in the military. The military always knows where their soldiers are. So I'm going to guess. Now, could he become that? That's different, but no, there's no chance he's the power broker. All right. Daniel Luna writes, one of two. Hi, John. Hello, Daniel. I hope you're doing good. I'm doing great. Thank you. No, this is me reaching now. But the episodes that Sharon appeared in this titled, is titled Power Broker. My initial thoughts when I first saw that title was we were going to meet him/her, but we never did. Unless we did. What if the title meant Sharon? I mean, it meant Zemo, but we knew he was going to be the next episodes anyway. See, Zemo's been in prison forever, so I don't see how he could be Power Broker. Unless he was running things from the inside. But I don't think Zemo's a real strong consideration here. Sharon is, again, not a great theory, but for me, it is the least bad of all the bad theories. Right? Access to the satellites, all of her connections to the underground, how she's just so powerful there. She's got cars picking her up. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't believe it's Sharon. But Sharon, out of all the bad theories right now, seems to be the least bad theory. Like, I think it's a better theory than Batroc. I think it's a better theory than Thunderbolt Ross. I think it's a better theory than Zemo. Again, I still don't think it's a very strong theory, not at all, but it's the least bad out of all those theories. So if we find out Sharon is indeed the power broker, I won't be shocked. And somebody else brought up in another episode, they said, what if Power Broker is a title that gets passed on like the Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride? Sharon is like, I'm not the original Power Broker. As a matter of fact, the Power Broker who passed the title on to me wasn't even the original Power Broker. So, I mean, it could be something like that. Again, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. I'm just saying you could connect the dots that way. I don't know. It's a bit of a reach, but we'll see where they go with it. All right. Next up, we got John Durig, who writes, who, by the way, super chatted in like $20, as did Daniel. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting our channel on that level. I really appreciate that, guys. John Durig writes, my Power Broker theory, Taskmaster. Reason? Black Widow was supposed to have come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It could have been a continuation from his story in the movie, if my theory is true. But here's the problem, John. Your theory is the exact reason why I don't think that's true. Because if Taskmaster was Power Broker, then it would become vital that Black Widow comes out first before we saw Falcon and Winter Soldier. It wouldn't have just been convenient or better. It would have been vital. And I don't think they'd show us we're not going to get the full reveal of Power Broker and who they are and what they are. Taskmaster. We're not going to get the full reveal of Taskmaster and know what they are and who they are and everything. And then go into Black Widow and go, ooh, the mystery of Taskmaster. Well, we already know the answers to all of it, right? So I get where you're coming from, but because of the exact reasons that you're laying out, is the exact reason why I don't think it's going to be them. Now, I do think there is connective tissue between Falcon and Winter Soldier and Black Widow, but I think it's going to be non-essential connective tissue, because if it was essential, they would have made sure that Black Widow came out before. They would have bumped off Falcon and the Winter Soldier longer, right? So it'll be non-essential connective tissue. But I mean, you could be right. I'm just not buying into it, and that's why. But who knows? We might find out that you are right, John. Let's see where they go with it. All right. Next up, Ismail Montoya writes, hey, John, would it be crazy if either Falcon or Bucky was killed by Walker? Not crazy. Would Feige allow it? Sure, if Feige thinks it's for telling a great story, he could allow it. Also, would you like old Steve Rogers to show up? Well, yes, I obviously would love Chris Evans. Chris Evans' Steve Rogers, old or young, is my favorite character in the MCU. Period. Not my favorite comic book character, but in the MCU, Chris Evans' Steve Rogers is my number one favorite character. So, yeah, I'd be all about that if he showed up. And yeah, Sam or Bucky could die. And I mean, after all, this is the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death universe. They could kill one of them and bring them back in 2 years anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But yeah, that could happen. It would create a great moment for television. It would be a huge what moment that everybody would be buzzing about online. So yeah, it's possible. And because it's the MCU, there's no real consequences anyway. They can just bring them back in a few years. So yes, anyway. Next up, the Wakanda Forever writes, predictions. Bucky and Sam defeat Dollar Store Captain America and take back the shield. Dora Milaje finally catch Zemo. Sam finally decides to use shield. I mean, that's kind of the way everybody thinks it's going to go. I mean, we've seen in the previews that at some point Sam and Bucky have the shield. So that's got to happen at some point. So that can happen. Dora Milaje probably do get their hands on Zemo at some point, and Sam takes up the shield. So I that seems to be the standard prediction by most people. Likelihood is at least one or two of those will come to pass, and the likelihood is at least one of them won't, but we'll see where they go with that. All right, next up. James Welsh writes, Taskmaster is power broker. Black Widow was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so maybe his origin was supposed to be in Black Widow, then brought back for this, but due to COVID, they switched dates with Florence Pugh and Hawkeye. Maybe Taskmaster is the villain in that, and that's how these three are connected. Taskmaster is the threat in all three, kind of like how Feige is connecting Spider-Man, WandaVision, and Doctor Strange. Again, my big problem with that, James, is that as we go into Black Widow, which is, I mean, I hate putting it like this, but is the more important property because it's the feature film. We can't go into Black Widow with the mystery of Taskmaster already being revealed in an episode of television, right? Because you're right, Black Widow was supposed to come out first, and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if we get Taskmaster in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're going to know a lot about Taskmaster. Like, because at that point, whatever reveals are supposed to be made about Taskmaster, we're going to know. So are they really going to, in an episode of TV, give us big reveals about Taskmaster, and then we go into a feature film, Black Widow, and going, ooh, let's pretend like this is a mysterious character, this Taskmaster. We don't know anything about him, and we don't know what the big ultimate reveal is. I just don't see them doing that. I think if it was that vital and important, they would have kept Black Widow coming out before Falcon and Winter Soldier, or pushed Falcon and Winter Soldier off more to come out after Black Widow. I think there is going to be connective tissue, but I don't think it's going to be essential connective tissue. The Taskmaster thing seems like essential connective tissue. So is it possible they do that? Yes. But I think it's very unlikely. But hey, that's the thing, right? Anything's possible, James. Let's see where they go with it. All right, next up. Dragon 10 writes, the power broker is John's character in the Hulk. There you cracked the code, man. I have actually secretly, back in 2020 during COVID, I was actually secretly flying down to Atlanta on weekends to film my roles as power broker. You cracked the code. You cracked the code. Wouldn't that be cool? That explains why you've been so coy, John. I can confirm nor deny nothing, Dragon 10. All right, Hero 75 writes, I don't expect to see Black Panther, but I wouldn't be surprised if Chadwick did a voice cameo and we hear him as T'Challa one last time. I mean, they could do that with any old recordings, right? They could do that with any old recordings, but I do not think they would do the morbidly inappropriate thing of saying, hey, Chadwick, you're dying, so hey, record some stuff for us so we can profit from your dying words. I think that would be morbidly inappropriate. But that doesn't mean they couldn't get like old recorded stuff from him from, one of the movies. Like I'm sure there's at least a half hour worth of unused footage. So maybe they could do that. I wouldn't be totally against that. But to go to a dying man and say, hey, help us profit from your dying. Record some stuff for us. That would be morbidly inappropriate, I would think. Anyway, next up. Suthius writes, Hasbro toy leak shows Sam in possible Captain America-esque suit. I rather him not, just be Falcon. That is his legacy, and long live Smiling Tiger. Yeah, listen, I've always been very clear about this. I don't want Bucky and I don't want Sam calling themselves Captain America. They're not Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America. But John, in the comic books, I don't give a flying fuck what's in the comic books. Steve, this is the MCU. Steve Rogers is Captain America, period. So I don't want either Bucky or Sam calling themselves Captain America. What I have no problem with, and they very well may do that, they might do it. I just don't want them to do it. But what I could see Sam doing is taking on a new costume that is homage to Steve and taking up the shield, but not calling himself Captain America. I'd be totally good with that. Maybe even changing his name, whether he calls himself Falcon or changes it to something else and tries to carry on the legacy of Steve, whatever. I just don't want him to call himself, or Bucky for that matter, calling themselves Captain America. If anything this show has proved, there is only one Captain America. If this show has taught us anything, is that there's one Captain America. His name is Steve Rogers. That's it. And now there's the legacy of that, and other people can pick up that legacy and carry the legacy. Just don't call yourselves Captain America. But that's me. That's just me. Don't get me wrong. I love Bucky and I love Sam, but I don't think any of them should be calling themselves Captain America. There is one Captain America, and that's it. But they probably will end with one of them, probably Sam, being called Captain America. But I really hope they don't. I hope they don't. That's just me. All right, next up. Charles T. writes, I think the power broker may be the Red Skull. Somebody mentioned that this morning, actually. He could have returned after Infinity War and tried to build an army of super soldiers again. I mean, it's possible. It's highly unlikely, but it's possible. I mean, one of my my absolute biggest jaw-dropping moment in Infinity War wasn't even the snap. My biggest jaw-dropping moment was when Gamora and Thanos got there, and the hooded figure turns around and it's Red Skull, and my jaw dropped in my lap. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And so what's he been doing since they took the stone? Well, I mean, no, he was still there. He was still there. Because remember, he was still there when... Well, no, because that was the time traveling thing. I don't know. Look, it's not the crazy. I think it's very unlikely that it's Red Skull, but I would dig it if it was. And who knows? There could be a possibility there. All right. Somebody's asking, wasn't he freed? I mean, the stone wasn't there anymore. So why would he still be there, right? Maybe, possibly. All right. Amanda Burns writes, could Red Skull be the power? This is another person saying the same thing. Could Red Skull be the power broker? And working for Mephisto because he freed him from Soulstone Planet. LOL, I couldn't resist. But hey, listen, I like this idea of Red Skull. I do. I don't know that it really makes a lot of sense, but think about it. Red Skull's traditionally Captain America's, biggest arch nemesis. I mean, he was the original guy that because of him, Cap ended up in the ice. Coming back, I don't hate the idea. I'll say that. I don't hate the idea. All right, next up. Amanda also writes, do you think the issues in Bucky and Sam's life get resolved? Will the old man forgive Bucky, and will Sam lose the house and boat? I mean, I don't know that. Look, the issues in Bucky's life are issues built up over 100 years. I don't know that they can just suddenly be resolved in an episode. But that one issue, does the old man forgive him? You know what I could see happening? I could see Bucky, because I mean, this show, before this show's over, it's got to have, what's the old man's name again? Yori? It's got to have Bucky talking to Yori again. And he's got to come clean with him. And it may end that Yori doesn't forgive him and gets mad, but at least then Bucky has done what he needed to do and start moving on from that, right? Like, Bucky can't control how Yori will respond. He can only control what he can control. And what he can control is to build up the courage to face him and tell him exactly what happened. Because he's not going to be able to continue on his journey of forgiving himself and moving on and healing until he does stuff like that, right? So whether or not Yori gives him a big hug and forgives him, or whether he's like, and leaves. That's outside of his control. That's outside of his control. So, I don't know, but maybe, hopefully. And does Sam still lose the boat? I've got a feeling, call me crazy, I have a feeling Zemo pays for Sam's house and boat. I have a feeling Zemo ends up paying for, kind of like how Bruce Wayne ends up buying the bank. So Martha, by the way, can I just throw that in there? That whole thing at the end of Justice League, in both the theatrical and Snyder, the Snyder cut, where to get Ma Kent's house back, he bought the bank. Why didn't he just buy the house from the bank? Like, I'm sure that house is probably worth $150,000 in that property. Offer them $1 million. Did he really have to pay $30 billion to buy the bank just to get the house back? That never made any sense to me. But whatever, it was still a very heart-touching moment. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I kind of like that. I got a feeling seeing Zemo go, I arranged for the financial problems of your boat and house. They're very quaint. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. Or maybe Zemo will just buy the bank. Maybe he'll just buy the bank. Who knows? All right, next up. John A.B. writes, I know this character probably won't be in the show, but what do you think are the chances that Marvel brings Red Skull back? We've just been talking about that. He's one of the favorite villains, and I hope to see him again. Again, the biggest argument for that is the fact that he is a villain forever connected to Captain America. And this whole show has been about the legacy of that. I mean, for heaven's sakes, the entire logo of the show is Cap's shield, right? The whole logo of the show is Cap's shield. So, I mean, it's, again, I'm not saying that he will. I'm not even saying I'm expecting it. I would probably say no, but it does have connective tissue, right? There is connective tissue there between the properties. So I'll go so far as John say, I mean, listen, I love the idea. If Red Skull showed up, I would probably freak out. I will probably start jumping up and down in my living room. I'm not kidding you. You think I'm kidding? You guys haven't seen me watching shows that I really love or movies I really love. Like, there is a possibility if they go to confront the power broker and it turns around, some chair, remember like Dr. Claw would turn his chair around and it's Red Skull, I will probably be like literally physically jumping up and down in my living room. And like screaming my stupid fool head off if that happened. Do I think it will? Probably no. But there is connective tissue, and let's see what they do with that. All right, next up, Daniel Luna writes. Also, John, I don't know if anyone ever brought it up, but what if the power broker is the man himself? Or the program itself, Arnim Zola, just a thought. Yeah, I've had a lot of people writing that in. Actually, we had some people write that in on the show this morning. I already think they've been there, done that with Zola. Like, we already had him in the original Captain America. Again, there is connective tissue, but then we had him again in Winter Soldier with his computer thing. Yes, Captain. So we've already been there, done that with him. Now, the two arguments for that theory are, number one, connective tissue to the Captain America character, much like Red Skull. Two, that one bit of graffiti on the wall. What'd it say? The power broker is watching. If he's still like an AI kind of thing and he's in all this, maybe there's a meaning to that. He's watching through the security cameras and blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe. So again, I still highly doubt it's Zola, but I mean, there is arguments to be made for why you could buy into that theory. So we'll see where they go with that. All right, next up. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. Walker will be a big problem for Sam and Bucky because unlike the new super soldiers who are powerful but green, Walker is experienced. That's true. Walker is experienced. But he's not a century of experience. He's not a century of experience. Sam's got as much, well, Sam doesn't have as much experience as John Walker does. But Bucky, he's been doing this for almost 100 years. Bucky has been traveling around the world, going on the most impossible missions, wiping out and assassinating the most difficult of targets. I ain't worried about Bucky against some dude. Oh, you've been a soldier for 18 years? Oh, that's adorable. That's so cute. Oh, I want to pinch your cheeks. I've been assassinating people around the world for probably longer than your great-grandparents have been alive, kid. But yes, you are right. He does pose a more formidable problem than those green, flag smasher kids. He definitely does prove to be a bigger problem for them than those flag smasher kids. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, yeah, no, don't sell short, all the missions and everything that Bucky's been doing too. All right, next up, K Munoz writes, one of two predictions. Sharon Carter is/was helping the Flag Smashers, having met Carly in Madripoor. Interesting theory. Zemo kills Walker and stays on the run. Final scenes, we see Isaiah Bradley's reaction as he watches Sam televised speech on what it means to be Captain America. There is another really good theory I heard about Isaiah. Somebody else brought it up today because earlier some people suggested, what if it ends with Sam going back to Isaiah and giving him Cap's shield? That would be a very nice moment, but it would also be very counterproductive. Like, you're taking the shield, which is also a powerful weapon, out of play by giving it to a retired guy to just have in his living room. Somebody else made the suggestion today on the show. I think it was one of the viewers wrote in and said, what if Isaiah becomes the guy to convince Sam to take up the shield? Maybe not take on the name Captain America, but what if Sam still feels reservations about taking up the shield and it's Isaiah who convinces him to do it? That could also be very powerful imagery, a really great moment for a show. That would work a lot too. As far as Sharon Carter working with the Flag Smashers, I don't know. Sharon seems very well connected and seems to have access to a lot of money, and the Flag Smashers don't. Also, like Sharon participating in like the killing of people tied up in buildings. I don't know. I could see her more as the power broker than I could see her working with the Flag Smashers. As weird as that sounds. As totally weird as that sounds. All right, next up. Joel writes, just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that, man. All right, Midi writes, why the Flag Smasher that died didn't think anyone could be Cap till he met Carly. Steve and Carly have very different morals. Seems like an offline to me. Not really, because remember, I think what the show is telling us is that the super soldier serum is changing Carly. I think the underlying message of a lot of things in the show is there was really only one guy who could really take and handle the super soldier serum, and that was Steve Rogers. Remember, when Dr. Erskine was trying to pick somebody, he had like dozens of the U.S. military's finest guys there training and trying out to be the first Captain America. And I'm sure many of them were very good men, but Erskine knew this is the one guy who can do it. This scrawny little kid from the Bronx, this is the guy who can be that. This is the guy who can handle this serum and everything that will come along with it. I think before taking the serum, what was Carly? She was a girl who saw people hurting, who were suffering under an unjust situation and just wanted to make a difference to help people. Isn't that what Steve kind of was too, in a way? But the problem is she's not Steve Rogers. And being a super soldier has started to change her. I don't think she was the kind of girl who before would have tied up people, put them in a building, and blown the building up. I don't think that, to me, what the show is suggesting is that she wouldn't have done that before. And that's what I think the guy meant. That's just kind of my take on it at any rate. All right. Let's see. Next up. Mitty also writes, Steve is your Cap, but would you prefer John Walker or Carly? Well, I mean, listen, they're both going bad, right? They're both souring. I mean, maybe I'll take Carly because at least Carly started out. I mean, but John Walker actually started out as a good guy too. So I don't know. That's tough. You know what that is, Mitty? That's a coin toss, but heads are on both sides of the coin. Like, neither's a good option. Neither's a good option. There shouldn't be. That's just it, though. There shouldn't be another Captain America. Captain America is Steve Rogers, period, at least to me. All right, Marie Seafring, who writes in and super chatted in like $20. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that support. Of these 4 established characters close to Bucky and Sam, who do you think is in the most danger from the crossfire between Sam, Bucky, Walker, Zemo, and Carly? Yuki, or is that supposed to be Yori? Can't remember. Sarah, Isaiah, and Torres are the 4 characters. Thanks. Honestly, I think the most likely, because from episode 1, when Torres appears in episode 1, I was like, that guy's going to die. I don't know why. But I remember I was watching it with my buddy Ryan and Ann, and that guy came on screen. It's like, hi, I'm Torres, this go-getter attitude dude. I'm like, that guy's going to die. That guy, he's totally a red shirt from Star Trek, if you guys know that reference. He's totally a red shirt in Star Trek. So I think him. Not to mention, he can be there. Like, whereas everybody else is still back home, he could be there, right? So I'm going to go him. I think he dies. All right, next up. That's a good question, Marie, but I think it's an obvious answer. For me personally, could be any of them, but I think it's going to be him. Because, like, he's totally the red shirt of this show, right? Totally the red shirt. And Sam will be like, no, he was such a good kid. And it'll be emotional for Sam and whatever. Anyway, Never Lose You Nerd writes, what about Norman Osborn? No. Just no. What about Norman Osborn possibly being the power broker? Dumb idea, I know, but it would be a big WTF reveal and way to introduce him. Love you, John. Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's possible. Plus, I got a feeling Sony wants to use that character. I think Sony may want to use Norman Osborn. Now, I got no proof of that either. I have no proof of that, but I have a feeling they want to use that character. And plus, there's absolutely zero connective tissue. Like with Red Skull, there's connective tissue. With Zola, there's connective tissue. Backtrack, connected. Sharon Carter, connected. Thunderbolt Ross, connected. Norman Osborn, that would be like a totally rando thing. Totally rando. So I'm going to guess no. But you're not wrong if he says, hello, I'm Power Broker, or some know me as Norman Osborn. Dun, dun, dun. It would be a huge WTF moment. It would absolutely be. But I see the chances of that very, very low. It would be it would be completely random. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Ryan Toll writes, the fact that Spidey beat up both Falcon and Bucky makes you remember how strong Peter is. And apparently someone in Falcon and Winter Soldier dies tonight. Who would you bet? I mean, yeah, that's not official. It's not like Sebastian Stan got on tour and said, everybody make sure you watch tonight. Somebody dies. That's the rumor. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But look, let's be honest. People have died in every episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier so far. At least one person has died in every episode. Now, will it be somebody significant? Probably. Could be Red Shirt Boy. Probably Red Shirt Boy. Or maybe Carly dies tonight. Yeah, I don't think Carly makes it out of this series. And I don't know that she's in the finale, so maybe Carly. But I would have to go Red Shirt Boy for me. So we'll see, though. All right, Run Amok Design writes, so we're in agreement. Now, the power broker is Reed Richards. That's right. We're going to find out. John Krasinski, they're going to go into the power broker's office. The back of his chair's to them. And you hear, hello, Dwight. And the chair will turn around. It's going to be John Krasinski as Reed Richards is the power broker. Full agreement. We're in Run Amok Design. Full agreement. All right, Ryan Toll writes, I hope we see GSP again. I'll be upset if we don't. Oh, Ryan, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Like, let's be thrilled that they brought back GSP as Batroc. Let's be thrilled about that. Let's not be one of those guys that's like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing that for us. No, give us more of that or we'll hate you. You know, let's not be one of those people. Let's not be one of those people. Let's be like, thank you, Marvel, for bringing back GSP. Now, listen, he was I mean, he's been brought in the show. There is a possibility he comes back. I don't think he is the power broker, but I mean, I would love, me, GSP is my all-time favorite mixed martial artist. I would love to see more of him in this. It would be great, but let's not be like, I'm going to be really upset if they don't. Hey, let's be grateful that they brought him in for an episode. Let's not turn into one of those assholes that are like, oh, thanks for doing that for us. Now do more, we'll hate you. Let's not do that. Let's not be that. Let's not do that. All right, next up. Fanimator writes, who you think is the big Marvel cameo Malcolm Spielman was teasing at during interviews? Again, I don't really know that it's anybody, and I don't really know that that's what they were saying. But again, I mean, we already had Rhodey, so it can't be Rhodey. It can't be Natasha, obviously. But I don't know. I mean, I still like the idea of maybe Old Man Steve. I still like that idea. But it'll probably be somebody that surprises us. But I like the idea of Old Man Steve. All right. Next up. Koa1708 writes, no one thinks Zemo is the power broker? Nah, he couldn't have been. I mean, the power broker has obviously been active the last number of years, and he's been in prison. You can make the argument that he's been running it from prison. Sure, I suppose, but it seems unlikely. So, look, they can pull anything at this point. They can pull anything. But I think it's pretty unlikely that it's Zemo. But, they've done stranger things. All right, next up. Stubby1 Kenobi, I like that name, writes, theory. Sharon works for Sword, trying to infiltrate Power Broker. Power Broker is Ben Kingsley. You remember Trevor had plastic surgery to look that way. Body double? He's in prison. Well, wait. He was in prison, but then the Mandarin broke him out of prison. No, he's just a sniveling actor. I mean, at the end of the day, he's just a sniveling actor. So I don't think he could be, the power broker. So I don't think so. Nah. So no. Because he's just a sniveling little guy. So no, I don't think so. But I mean, yeah, he was broken out of prison by the Mandarin. So, I mean, physically it's possible. But when you know his character, you're like, no, that dude cannot become or run a big underground crime lord thing. So no. All right. Spark the producer writes, hey, John, did you notice Sam's face when Bucky said, yes, we do, to Captain America in the episode 5 trailer? Keep up the great work. I do not remember the look then on Sam's face. I just remember him saying, yeah, we do. That was just such a great line. It was such a great line and such a great moment. And I just love it. So no, I did not notice the look on, I'll just be straight up honest with you. I didn't notice the look on Sam's face, but oh my God, I am looking forward to this episode tonight. I'm very excited about it, my friends. I'm very, very excited about it. All right. Let's see. We move on here. Mac Rea writes, John, thank you for providing a sense of normalcy during a rather shitty time. The Collider watch-alongs and Marvel post shows have helped me a lot. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here with us, man. And thank you for watching along and being a part of our community. And thank you for writing that in, dude. That means a lot to me. Thanks a lot, man. All right. Tommy Lee writes, hey, John, I won't ask who you think. Who do you want the power broker to be? Is there a specific character that you are hoping the power broker is? Honestly, no. I really don't. I do not have any preference. And look, whether it's a completely new character, which I honestly, if I had to bet $5, my $5 is that the power broker is not somebody we already know in the MCU. Honestly, that I think is the most likely scenario. Not guaranteed, but I think the most likely scenario is that the power broker isn't anybody we already know. Honestly. There are many names that excite me. Like, some people say Red Skull. That I find very appealing. I don't think it's likely, but I find it very appealing. And a number of others, but honestly, no, I am not one of these guys who's like, it better be this guy. No, I don't like to be that. I just like to try to take the attitude of give us who you're going to give us. I'm not writing the show. I'm not going to predetermine in my head who this should be or who that should be. I just want to experience. I can have my theories about who I think it will be, but I don't put it in my head of who I want it to be. So again, there are several characters that, yeah, that excites me that this character could be it or that character could be it. But like a character I want it to be, nah, because then I just think that sets you up for being disappointed. You know, and I don't do this. So I'm just excited to see who it is. But honestly, at the end of the day, I do think it'll probably end up being somebody we don't know. But there are a lot of other options too, and we'll see where they go with that, Tommy. All right, next up. RC writes. Where do we go? There it is. If John Walker survives the series, it's possible that he'll be shoehorned into the new Avengers by the government. I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. No, I don't think he'll be an Avenger. He's just gone too far. And the super soldier serum isn't going to get better in him. Now, he may survive it and get away and start going by the name of U.S. agent, but yeah, I don't see the U.S. government. Plus, I don't think the U.S. government has the authority to say who's in the Avengers. That's not under the purview of the U.S. government. So I will guess no. John Walker does not end up in the Avengers lineup. I don't think that's going to happen. And again, that's not even the U.S. government's call. So we'll see. Anyway, next up. Triz writes, hey, John, over under 50% that we'll see Chris Evans in the last episode. Again, I said I'm putting the over under at 25%. And I'm not even necessarily saying in the last episode, but might even be this episode. But in 5 or 6, I give it a 1 in 4 chance. I give it a 25% chance. So I will take over 15%. Not a lot over 15%, but I'll go over 15%. All right, Mad1306 writes, there are 2 shields. Falcon will get Cap shield because what Walker, I don't know what BK means, to be honest with you. But Walker will get another shield in the mid-season promo. Walker shields looks different from before. I don't recall that. I mean, I could see a scenario where the government backs what John Walker did and saying, John Walker, our Captain America, took out a terrorist. But maybe Sam and Bucky do take that shield away from him. And so the U.S. government goes, okay, well, here's a new shield. Maybe it's not Cap shield, but it's a new shield. Maybe that's possible. Like I said, I don't remember him holding a different looking shield in one of the previews, but just because I don't remember it, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So that's possible. We'll see. And that's not a bad theory, man. That's not a bad theory. All right, next up. Was that Mad? Yes, it was. Ben Nelson writes, I really think the power broker is more likely to tie back to Black Widow. Somebody like Rick Mason or what happens to Taskmaster post Black Widow. See, that's not a bad theory. It's not a bad theory to think power broker may tie into Black Widow, but not that power broker is Taskmaster. Because that's a little too significant, like, because we'll be getting a Taskmaster, and now we're going to know an awful lot about Taskmaster when we're supposed to be watching Black Widow, where it's supposed to be a mysterious figure, right? But saying that a non-Taskmaster power broker could somehow be tied into Black Widow, a non-essential thing like that, I like that way of thinking, Ben. That would make some sense to me. All right. Abley writes, okay, everyone, gather around in a circle and let's pray a young upstart Wilson Fisk as the power broker. Absolutely no. Absolutely not. Things won't go well for him, and he will conclude by going back home. Amen. Now, I not only do I not think that's likely, I don't want them to do that. That is such a departure from the Wilson Fisk character. So no, I don't think they're bringing in Wilson Fisk at this point. And that is there is nothing about the Wilson Fisk character that has any roots in Mad Rapport and doing things in Asia. This dude is a Hell's Kitchen dude in its core. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible that they could introduce their brand new MCU version of Wilson Fisk. It's not impossible, but I really don't want them to change the character so fundamentally that way. It's just, to me, it's not a good introduction for him. So I will have to respectfully, Abley, decline in participating in your prayer circle because I don't want them to do that. I don't think that would be a good move. Now, maybe they could come up with something narratively that makes it quite interesting and exciting, maybe. But all other things being equal and just on its surface, I don't like it. I don't want them to do that. I don't think that's a good idea. But that's just me. All right, next up. Stubby1 Kenobi writes, Do you believe the rumor that a pandemic plot is removed from the show? Reason why show is only 6 episodes? Absolutely not. No, I don't believe that at all. I think that's a real stretch. So I don't believe that even remotely. All right, next up, Timothy Platt writes, I'm not convinced Sam wants to fight Walker. I think it finally hit him that Walker is dealing with PTSD. The look he gave after Bucky said, yeah, we do, did not look like someone eager to fight. Well, look, it's obvious. Like, the first thing Sam says is, we don't want anybody else to get hurt. Like, Sam is doing what Sam does. Try to de-escalate, right? That's what Sam does. Try to de-escalate. Figure out a way to solve this without it putting people's lives in danger, right? So what does Bucky then say? Bucky says something that completely escalates it. It's like, look, John, look, we don't need to do this. No one else needs to get hurt. We don't want anybody to get hurt. You don't want to do this. And the last thing he wants Bucky to say is, yeah, we do. But that's totally a Bucky thing to say. It's a totally Bucky thing to say. So, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. So, no, I think, look, Sam's ready to go into action. But if he can find a way to resolve it without, like, if he could find a way to talk John down, say, look, John, you got to turn yourself in, man. You got to surrender that shield. You got to recognize you're out of control right now. Like the way he was talking to Carly, like, Carly, look, you blew up a building with people in it. They weren't innocent, okay? So, he's going to try to mediate the situation. And he should. And that's one of the things I love about Sam. And then Bucky says something totally counterproductive to what it is he's trying to do. That's one of the reasons why I love that shot so much. All right. Next up, Lee Melly KH2 writes, I'm so excited for tomorrow, or for me it's tonight, but am slightly concerned of them wrapping up in 2 episodes. From Walker, Smashers, Yori, and Bucky's presence, the Wilsons, the race themes, Zemo, Sharon, and the Power Broker. Honestly, listen, the way they've been able to move through, look, the Yori stuff, that can be resolved in a 2-minute scene. So that's not a big deal. Flag Smashers, that can be resolved fairly quickly. Especially now that the one guy's dead. They know where Carly is. Carly's now on the run. The Flag Smashers are now on the run. That can be resolved fairly quickly. Again, yeah, a lot of this. I feel like there's a lot to do, but honestly, I feel like it's all very manageable in 2 hours. And we've got about 2 hours left in this series, and I feel like it's fairly manageable. I really do. I think it's fairly manageable. All right, next up. But we'll find out, man. We'll find out. And by the way, they don't necessarily, Lamelli, they don't need to wrap everything up. I mean, let's remember, this is the MCU. They could have a couple of these things left open-ended to be addressed later, either in a Falcon and Winter Soldier Season 2 or in another property at some point, right? That's the great thing about this one shared cinematic universe is that every issue they introduce doesn't have to be resolved right away. The Flag Smashers could become an ongoing problem in the MCU, right? The Yori thing, I mean, I do think they'll resolve the Yori thing, yes. But Zemo, they may not resolve Zemo in this series, right? So they could leave, like, I still feel like there's more than enough time to properly wrap it all up, but they don't necessarily need to wrap it all up. So we'll see where they go with that. All right. Boosters the name writes, what if the Power Broker is simply Curtis Jackson from the comics? Sounds crazy, but it can be a new character brought into the MCU. Honestly, I can't remember Curtis Jackson off the top of my head in the comics, so I don't know. But again, I believe there is a likelihood. I wouldn't put $100 on it, but I'd be willing to put $5 on that Power Broker is somebody we have not met in the MCU yet. Very possibly somebody from the comics, but not necessarily somebody from the MCU yet. And Shay is saying exactly what I thought when I read it. Curtis Jackson, like 50 Cent. He's into having sex. He ain't into making love. It's an old 50 Cent song reference there. Anyway, so that is a possibility. All right, next up. Gabe Campbell writes, Power Broker being a title passed down would be an awesome idea. Maybe it's a group of people. Possibly. Maybe that whole idea about Power Broker is always watching. What if Power Broker is actually the name of a core group? There is no one individual. who is the power broker. That's how they maintain power. And it could be passed from member to member, person to person. Could be. It's the Dread Pirate Roberts. I'd be down for it. I'm not saying that's what I think they will be doing, but I kind of like it. All right. Zach Houston writes, is no gonna suggest the leader last seen in The Incredible Hulk as power broker? Or you probably mean as no one. Well, actually, that was brought up on the John Campea Show earlier today. We talked about that earlier today. Samuel Stearns has obsession with the Hulk's power. Yeah, we talked about that earlier on the show. Again, remember, from that exact same Hulk movie, we had Abomination. And Abomination, we know, is coming back. Abomination, Tim Roth, from that Hulk movie, is coming back and is going to be in the She-Hulk show. That's a fact. So the door could be open for Samuel Stearns as leader. Now, again, I don't know that that is likely, but that is definitely something for us to keep our eyes on. And again, it does seem random, a little bit random, but you're right. There is a connection with making formulas to give human beings power and stuff like that. That's a little bit connected there. So again, I think it's unlikely, but possible? Yeah, it's possible, man. And we did talk about it earlier today. All right, JSW writes, unlikely theory, but something I think could be a great twist. What if the power broker is Walker's wife? It's more than unlikely. That makes it makes it, from a logistics point of view, impossible. I mean, he would know if she's in Madripoor all the time. He'd be very familiar with Madripoor. I just don't see any way that could be the case. I mean, it would definitely be a big dramatic twist, but from a logistic point of view, I just don't see any way they could actually make that happen. All right. Next up, Joel Barry writes, good day, John. Love the finishing move decapitation Captain America did. I don't think he decapitated him. I think he buried it in his chest, but whatever. So brutal. Same move Steve did to Tony in Civil War, only Steve had more control. Yeah, I mean, and I think that was done on purpose. The juxtaposition of Steve being in that position and John Walker being in that position. Walker murdered his opponent. Steve didn't, and then Steve gives him a phone and says, call me whenever you need help. I mean, that's the difference. That's why only Steve Rogers can be Captain America, but that juxtaposition of those two similar scenarios speaks volumes, Joel. It speaks absolute volumes, so that's a very, very good observation. All right, Midtown Mike writes, crazy thought, Zemo is power broker. Again, I've seen a lot of people bringing that up. I just don't see how it's been possible. He's been in jail for, like, in the MCU years at this point. Hasn't it been like close to 10 years? I don't know, maybe it's been like 8 years or something, but he's been in jail since Civil War. Right? He's been in jail since then. So it seems unlikely, but you never know. It is Baron Zemo. Maybe his family has been stewarding the power broker mantle, but I don't know. It seems unlikely. We'll see though. All right, next up. CGM Show writes, one thing I don't see anyone talk about is just how different and creative the Falcon is with his wings in fights. He's just so maneuverable. Oh no, he's great. They come up with a lot of very creative, cool ways that he uses those wings in that battle suit to combat. And you're right, he is so maneuverable. Like, obviously, in a fight with Iron Man destroys Falcon 10 times out of 10. That is clearly the superior suit, the computer. But in terms of just pure maneuverability and creative things that he can do with it, he's pretty good with that thing, man. He's really, really good with that thing. All right. Next up, Suthius writes, Vision helps Sam with the boat. He'll show up, put his hand on Sam's shoulder and say in a serious tone, Sam, have you heard of the ship of Theseus? Ah, nice tie back. I like that. And all of a sudden he just builds it back up. I like that. Even though, I cannot wait to meet that Vision again. I mean, he's not the Vision we knew, but I can't wait to meet that character again. I am very excited to meet him again, but that would be funny. All right, Don Hartzell writes, big fan, John. Maybe quick story of John Schnepp. Quick story of John Schnepp. I remember, here's a quick story of John Schnepp, even though we're here to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I will give you a quick story of John Schnepp. I remember me and Schnepp went to go see, he and I went to a screening, a special event screening of this new little horror movie called Lights Out. Do you guys remember that one? It was based on the short film on YouTube and directed by the same guy. Anyway, Schnepp and I went to go see Lights Out at a special event. And as a part of this special screening event for Lights Out, they had this like chamber set up at the theater where you could go inside of it and it would go pitch black and these things would appear like when the lights would go out, you'd have this sensory kind of experience. It was really, really crazy. Schnepp freaked the hell out. He was like, and I remember afterwards, like, nope, like talking after it. It was so funny. It was so great. Yeah, that was a good night. That was a fun night. Anyway, so there's that. Okay. Next up, CGM Show writes, big fan John. Oh, sorry, a different one. Didn't Bucky get his butt kicked by Isaiah Bradley? Not necessarily. Isaiah Bradley says he kicked his butt, but remember, Isaiah Bradley was sent after Winter Soldier. He clearly never got him because Winter Soldier was still out there doing his thing. So it's probably one of those things where like Thor and Hulk talk about the fight they had. Oh, I won the fight easily. That doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he actually kicked his butt or not. But that's Isaiah's way of recalling the event. It'd be interesting if they did show us a quick flashback of that scene to see what happened there. All right, James Bryant writes. I lost my spot. There it is. James Bryant writes, Sam, just a shield to Isaiah. Sam, just a shield to Isaiah. Isaiah gives it to his son, Young Avengers, next Captain America. Yeah, I don't think so. And remember, I think that's his grandson, by the way. I don't think that's his son. I think that's his grandson, unless I remember them saying it differently. But again, I think the way it ends is that Isaiah is the one to convince Sam to take up the shield. I think that's what I think that would be very special. I think it ties into what happens in the earlier episode. I just think it'd be really special, but we'll see. Anything can happen, James. Anything can happen. Maybe they do that. All right. Siphonix writes, anyone mentioned the first Captain America film when Cap meets Skull for the first time? There is the first reference to the countries without borders. I don't remember that. Now, it's been a couple years since I watched First Avenger again. I don't remember that specifically, but if that is a real reference, that would be very interesting. That would be very interesting. Although I don't think the Flag Smashers built their ideology on that, because the Flag Smashers is just about, hey, people who had developed their lives over the last 5 years had suddenly been misplaced, have not been misplaced, but they've been, pushed aside, and now we're all of a sudden we're in all this hardship and stuff like that. I mean, it seems born out of that, but it would be interesting if there was a connection there. All right, King Ramon 83 writes, theory, Isaiah and Old Man Rogers meet each other in the credit scene in episode 5 or 6. That would be a great scene. That would be a great scene. Now, again, the comics are different than the MCU itself, but in the comics, Isaiah like idolized Captain America. So it would be really an interesting scene if they did something like that. I would, maybe. I like that a lot. Again, I think it's only 25% that Steve shows up at all, but if Steve does show up, I could totally see them doing that. Okay. Next up, Mary writes, do you think Carly will accept her role in her friend's death or get angrier and go for more revenge, like going after John's wife? I hadn't even thought about that, Mary, but yes. Remember, look, my theory is this. Carly, prior to the super soldier serum, was not a murderer. She's a murderer now. Carly, before taking the super soldier serum, I don't think would do anything like this. Carly, after the super soldier serum, hell yes, I could see her doing something like that. Going after, because remember, I said last week, listen, we met his wife. Clearly, she's going to play a role in this. Maybe she goes after his wife. Holy crap. I hadn't even thought about that, Mary. That is a great theory. That is a great theory. I like it, so I will go out on a limb and say, yeah, I could see that happening. I could totally see that happening. But yeah, either way, whether she goes after John Walker's wife or not, no, she just doesn't go, wow, I now see that the path I set us on has led to nothing but death and destruction. I'm going to rethink this. No. Carly on the super soldier serum is like, F you, the world's going to burn. That's what I think they're probably going to do here. That's what I think they're probably going to do. So we'll see where they go with that. All right. Ben Rayner writes, Power Broker equals Reed Richards, who is really Mephisto. Theory built on top of a theory on top of another theory. I love it. Jake writes, I feel Zemo really wants Sam as the new Cap after he says he'd never take the serum. I think he schemed John Walker finding a vial, knowing it would corrupt him. No, that's way too coincidental. You think he smashed his foot in such a way that he knew that one would just roll out of sight and that Walker would just happen to come in and see it. And no, he doesn't want people taking that serum. He wants the serum destroyed. He can deal with Walker right now. I don't think he wants a more difficult to deal with Walker. So no, I don't buy that. I like your first theory that Zemo could see Sam taking up that legacy because he refused the serum, but I don't think there's any way you can back up the idea that he secretly planned all of that so John Walker would take the serum. I don't buy that theory at all, but I do like the first part of your theory. All right. Warlord Gaming writes, Dr. Doom is the Power Broker. No, I don't see that happening either. It's All Groovy writes, crazy idea. Ultron and Zola have combined to become the Power Broker. No. You think that's what Zola's would be interested in? Zola is all about controlling the world. He's not about becoming some little especially as a living computer program. So I don't see that. Something you could put into a comic book, but I don't think it's something they're going to play out here. All right, Bowen Box writes, the Power Broker is a GRC conspiracy for tightening government control with Walker / Flag Smashers as pawns. This realization is why Cap gives the shield. The problem, of course, is that the GRC never existed until after the snap. The Power Broker has been around a long time, right? The GRC only came into being as a result of 3 billion people reappearing on the Earth. The Power Broker was around a lot longer before that. So that the timeline of that theory doesn't match up, Boehm. Doesn't mean there couldn't be elements of what you're saying could be true, but overall, no, the Power Broker is not a creation of the GRC because the GRC just came into existence within the last couple of months, whereas the Power Brokers are obviously been around there for a very long time. All right, Mr. Ant Sir 83 writes, what if Power Broker is Wilson Fisk? A long stretch, but I'd love it. Again, many reasons why they should not do that, and many reasons why they wouldn't do that. But we've already covered that part already. So no, Wilson Fisk that makes no sense whatsoever. If you have any understanding of the character from the comic book at all, that makes zero sense. It would be a really lame ass way to bring him into the MCU at this point. So no, I don't think so. All right, Brian, but again, it is the MCU. It's the crazier things have happened, right? So I'm not going to say it's an impossibility, but I think it's a very, very bad idea. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do, Mr. Answer. Brian Fury writes, thoughts on Isaiah Bradley possibly being the one to convince Sam to take up the mantle of Captain America. Well, you've already heard me talk about that. Directly or indirectly, he motivates Sam to finally become Captain America. Again, I don't like the idea of becoming Captain America. To me, there is only one Captain America. That's Steve Rogers. But convincing him to take up the shield itself, yeah, I love that idea. I think it's poetic. I think there's a beauty to that. I think it gives narrative purpose to Isaiah being introduced here. I love the idea. I love it. And I kind of think that's what they're going to do. Now, many other things could happen, but I love that theory, and I think that's what they're going to do. All right, Jared McBride writes, John, do you think that Zemo will die in episode 5 or episode 6? And who do you think will kill him? No, I think the Dora Milaje will capture him. and take him to Wakanda, where they will probably execute him. Or, you know what I could see happening? I could see Bucky being willing to hand Zemo over to them, but saying, I may still need him. I'll give him to you so he can be in your custody, but you can't execute him. That's the deal. So I don't know. But no, I don't think Zemo's going to die. I don't think Zemo's going to die. Now watch, he gets killed tonight. There you go. But I honestly don't think he's going to die. We'll see. All right, next up. Matthew Heap writes, Power Broker is Kingpin. No chance. He'd fit the show's tone, and Boss Logic hinted at Disney Plus Daredevil and Punisher series. Could be nothing, but could be a clue. No, I think it would be a terrible idea. What on earth is Kingpin doing in Madripoor? That's not where he is. That is so disconnected from everything we know about the foundation and the origins of the character and where they come from. And so I just think it would be a bad idea to do, and I don't see them doing it. I don't see them doing it. But again, it is the MCU. I mean, most things I don't see them doing, they never do. But there's been times that you think, nah, they won't do that, will they? And then they do it. So let's keep our eyes open for it. But no, I don't think, I think it's a bad idea. I think it would be a very bad idea, but let's see what they do with it. All right, Matthew Heap also writes, further to Kingpin theory, he takes the serum, giving him inhuman strength, similar to comics, and so motive could fit the character. Thanks from the UK. Again, that's such a departure from the character. Now again, the comics are not the MCU. The MCU can do whatever they want with the character, even if it's a complete departure from what they've done with the character in the comics, right? So you can't just directly equate. But oftentimes what Kevin Feige does in the MCU is it's at least thematically and tonally in check. So even though he'll take a lot of liberties and change a lot of things, it seems like he normally tries to keep the core aspects there. So, and again, there's been absolutely zero connection. Like Kingpin, Wilson Fisk being the power broker would be such a rando move. It would be so random out of nowhere that like there's no connective tissue. Like at least with a lot of the other theories, there is connective tissue there that makes sense. Kingpin suddenly being there makes no sense narratively. It would be such a random out of nowhere thing. But again, this is Kevin Feige. If he can come up with a really great narrative, purposeful thing that makes it make a lot of sense and makes it work, it's something he could do. I just personally, like I said, all other things being equal, I think it's a really bad idea. I think it totally ruins the origin story of what Wilson Fisk is, and I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But if Feige does it, I trust Feige. Let's see where they go with it. All right, next up. Z Benally writes, I think Zemo ran away to the Sokovia Memorial. Possible. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, it's something he could have done. That would work. All right. Carmen Cabrera writes, or just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Carmen. Carmen also then follows up with, hi, John. I'm confused about something. Bucky and Steve are both really old. Yes, they are. Why Bucky doesn't look like Steve? Was he frozen at some point? Yes, at several points. So like that's something they explained, that at several points, he would go into freeze until he was needed. Now, also remember, he doesn't have the exact same Erskine formulation of a super soldier serum that Steve does. There could be a lot of other things going on with him. He may actually age much slower than Steve does too. But yes, there are mitigating circumstances there, Carmen. That's a good observation. You're right. There are several mitigating circumstances to that. All right, next up. Tyler Pfeiffer writes, do you think the scene at the end of the trailer with Sam and Bucky and John is a misdirect? No. I mean, it really better not be, because that you can't make a big promise. Like Hulk being in the Infinity War thing, that's not a huge promise. That's a detail of a scene. That is a massive promise. You can't dangle that out there and pull away. So no, I think it's probably going to be, it will be in tonight's episode, and I think it'll be rather early in the episode too. I think it'll be rather earlier in the episode. All right, Alex Von Gollum writes, hi, Gio. A Screen Rant's article states the producer said episode 5 will make us cry. Maybe when Walker, Sam, and Bucky are fighting, Old Man Cap appears, giving a speech to bring Walker back to be a good man. Maybe. I don't know if he can, though. Now that he's taken the super soldier serum, I don't know that he can just be convinced to be a good man. There is a reason Erskine was so hell-bent that the absolute right person be chosen to take it, because there were a lot of good men that could have become Captain America, but he needed that one. But yeah, it could be that somebody dies. It could be a beautiful emotional moment like that, Alex. I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. So we'll see. It could be a great speech. It could be the death of somebody. I don't know. Like maybe Carly kills Sam's sister. Maybe so pissed off by the events of what went on in the last episode, she carries through her threat and kills Sam's sister. Like, could they really go there? Could they actually do something like that? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out tonight. All right, next up, JMeister25 writes, I rewatched episodes 1 through 4, and it really put everything into focus. As for Madripoor, I think people right away knew Sam wasn't Smiling Tiger, and they were just playing along. Dumb? Sure. Hey, listen, man, I don't want to get into that whole debate again. It is the dumbest thing they have done in this series. Like, he walks into a refugee camp classroom. Oh, yeah, we know who you are. He's on the streets in Tanzania. Oh, yeah. Or Tunisia. Oh, yeah, we know who you are. He's walking around the streets of Philadelphia. Little kid, I know who you are. But he walks into a big bar in Madripoor and nobody recognizes him as an Avenger. It was so ridiculous. So ridiculous, but I don't want to go into it again. But hopefully you're right, Jay Meister, because if what you're saying makes a hell of a lot more sense. All right, next up. Let's see. Phoenix Clouden writes, I feel like I lost track of what Carly's goal is. What is she after, and why is it worth killing people for? Well, the whole idea is all the people who were still there. You know, she says in one of the earlier episodes, like, yeah, everybody's so happy, the 3 billion who came back, but what about those of us who've been here all along? People settled in land and in places and whatever. And then the 3 billion people came back, and people who had been building their lives for 5 years were then displaced and moved and put into refugee camps and all that kind of stuff, making room for the people who came back and realizing that, you know, the territorial rights of countries and nations, whatever. And they're like, you know what? Screw this. We need one world. No borders, no countries. We need one world. It's the only way it's going to be just and fair for everybody and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of, it's a micro cause, you know, fighting for the people who were displaced once the 3 billion came back. But then it's a macro cause as well, like believing just overall the theory that none of this would be happening if we didn't have individual nations. So it's a small cause and a big cause all wrapped into one. All right. Anyway, next up, hold a second. Why is this stuck? There we go. Okay. Johnny5 writes, have a great day, everybody. You too, Johnny, and have a good time watching the show tonight, my friend. All right, John Chung writes, Power Broker may never be in the show in this series, just like the engineer in WandaVision. Steve Rogers and Isaiah Bradley team up. I mean, okay, first of all, John, you're right. We may not see him at all. Like I was saying, remember I said earlier that, listen, when somebody was saying earlier that, man, there seems to be a lot of stuff to wrap up in just 2 episodes. I think there's enough time to wrap everything up, but they don't have to wrap everything up. I mean, maybe we don't meet or see the Power Broker at all. Totally possible. I mean, and really, as far as the narrative goes, do we need to meet the Power Broker right now? Maybe not. Maybe not. That could be another loose thread that they could use to pick up somewhere down the line in the MCU if they want to. Or like Kimberly Kern said on our companion video, she said maybe they just reveal Power Broker in a post-credit scene at the end of the series, at the end of episode 6. That's a possibility too, but I think you're right. And listen, I don't think we're going to see Steve Rogers and Isaiah teaming up, but if they did, remember I said earlier I'll be jumping up and down in my living room? Yeah, you bet your ass. You bet your ass. John Campea is going to be jumping up and down in his living room if we see old man Steve Rogers and Isaiah Bradley teaming up and like kicking some serious ass. Saying, yeah, I just had my pudding and I'm going to beat you to death. Well, maybe not to death, you know, but I would be down for that. That would be orgasm inducing, my friends. That would be orgasm inducing. All right, next up. Alex Von Gollum writes, I'm calling it Power Broker is, drumroll, the Grand Master. Wouldn't that be great? Just because I love Jeff Goldblum, I want to see him in the MCU again, I'd lose it. Don't forget that little short video Marvel did? Remember, Grandmaster comes to Earth and starts living with Thor's old roommate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up on YouTube. It's absolute gold. All right, Bam Bam writes, what if the power broker is Wanda? Well, no, that makes no sense. Show takes place right after WandaVision and would lead into Doctor Strange 2. Why on earth would Wanda need to create? I mean, she is the Scarlet Witch. She has the Darkhold. Why would she need to be an underground crime lord? It makes no sense. So no, I'm gonna have to say Bam Bam. No, I don't think that. I don't think that's gonna happen at all. I don't think that's gonna happen at all. All right, Rob Cantanasi writes, hello, John. Hello from Melbourne, Australia. I got to visit Australia someday, man. My theory is that the power broker could be Aldrich Killian. Extremis failed, so he's trying to recreate the serum. Now, help me out here. Did he not die? I can't remember. It's been a couple of beats since I watched 3, but help me out. Guys in the live chat, did he not die in Iron Man 3? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but he died. Yeah, he died in that. So again, it is the MC fake death universe, right? It's the MC MCFDU, the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death Universe. So, I mean, maybe, I suppose, but, if he had been alive, if he had survived Iron Man 3, that's not a bad theory. He's all about creating formulas and things to, impart superhuman abilities into people, the Extremis, for example. But, I don't see him. I don't see. I like the way Talia said he has joined the choir invisible. I like that nice little Monty Python thing there. No. Otherwise, had he been alive, I'd say that's not a bad theory. But he's dead. All right. Archangel writes, Feige building Thunderbolts, led by Zemo, Flag Smasher, U.S. Agent, and forthcoming villains from the show. General Ross is Power Broker, leads to Young Avengers versus Thunderbolts. I don't know. Again, I really don't like the Thunderbolt Ross as thing. That just logistically makes no sense. And Thunderbolt Ross has, while being a dick, he's always been a good guy. He's always been on the side of protecting America, of protecting the world, of all that kind of stuff, right? So I know if I buy that, hey, listen, the MCU is going in a lot of different directions. Do I want them to do Young Avengers and stuff like that? No. Do I think they're doing it? Maybe not. But listen, they need a lot of content. And the MCU world is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and vaster and vaster and vaster. So like Thunderbolts, Young Avengers, all that kind of stuff could be in play. But again, the Thunderbolt Ross thing, I just don't see. I just don't see it. Like, they're going to have to introduce it and give me a really good explanation for how it could be Thunderbolt Ross. And remember, the comics are not the MCU. These are two different things. They're going to have to do a really good job of explaining that narratively for me to buy into it. It is Feige. He can come up with a way, but we'll see where they go. All right, next up, we got Mr. Jones who writes, over under 50% that beginning of tonight's episode, it shows fake Cap taking the serum. It seems unnecessary. We know he took the serum. Right? Like, they made it, like, if they didn't make it obvious in the last episode that he clearly took the serum, then that would be a nice little flashback going, oh, but they made it so overtly obvious that he took it, like jumping out of the window and coming down 10 stories, however tall it was. It seems unnecessary. So I will go under 50%, but if you had set the line at like 20%, I'd probably take the over on that, but I'll take under 50. All right. Let's see. Old Man Juan Malagon writes, Old Man Steve shows up and Walker kills him. No, they're not going to have Steve Rogers die in a single episode of a Disney Plus TV show. That's not going to happen. All right, next up. Steven Staniforth writes, I give myself a 30% chance Power Broker could be Sam Stearns from Incredible Hulk. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Or possibly Sam Rockwell's character from Iron Man 2. Now, it can't be. The reason I don't buy into the Justin Hammer theory is Justin Hammer's a boob. I mean, that's just it. Justin Hammer's a boob. He's kind of an idiot. He's super smart on the technical side, not as smart as Tony, but other than that, he's also just kind of a boob. and he's in prison. So I don't buy into the Hammer thing, but you never know. Like, but the Stearns thing, the leader thing, we were talking about that earlier. I do think there's a chance there for that, as we discussed a little bit earlier. That, I think there is a possibility. So not a likelihood, but a possibility. All right. It's all groovy. Sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, man. He writes in, hey, John, just a chat at the end to say thank you. Love all these pregame and spoiler review shows that making watching so much more fun. I agree. Just doing these pregames and the spoiler discussions to me make it all the more fun watching the episode. You know, because now I get to watch the episode. I'm knowing tomorrow we're going to be talking about this for hours. And it makes watching this stuff more fun for me. Anyway, so much more fun. So thanks. And still waiting for Anne's spoiler review of Mighty Ducks. LOL. Yeah, she'll probably make me watch that at some point. It's all groovies. Probably at some point. All right. The comedic genius sends in a super chat just to be generous. And then writes in Falcon and Winter Soldier, then Invincible. I love Fridays a lot. Dude, no kidding. So my pattern is, I watch Falcon and Winter Soldier at midnight on Thursday, so tonight at midnight. And then tomorrow I get to watch Invincible. It is a great 1-2 punch. I'm really enjoying this Invincible show a lot, man. All right, Amin writes, is there anything you know or have been told about the next 2 episodes that you can't tell us? Like how you knew about Snoke's death beforehand? Dude, all I will say is if there was, I wouldn't tell you. I mean, right? If there was, I wouldn't tell you. So I'm not saying a thing. I will say this. On the things I am wondering about, I'm not pretending. Like when I say, I don't know if Steve's going to be in here, I give it a 20% chance. I don't know if Steve's coming back. When we say, oh, like maybe, Red Skull is Power Broker, I honestly don't know who Power Broker is. There may or may not be some things I do know. But if there was, I wouldn't tell you. But the things I'm telling you, I don't know. Like I say, I don't know what the chances are that Red Skull is that. I don't know what the chances are. See, that stuff I'm being on. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to not know something if I actually know what it is. You know what I'm saying? So if there is some things about the upcoming episodes that I do know, it's nothing we've talked about. It's nothing we talked about. So I'll leave it at that. All right, next up. TJ Thomas writes, okay, Power Broker theory I had. Vincent D'Onofrio, no. Have Sharon lead Bucky and Sam saying he's kind of a kingpin around here. Oh, I see where you're going at. Hello, gentlemen. My name is Ralph Bonner. How may I assist you? Okay, so look, the possibility that Vincent D'Onofrio, not as Wilson Fisk, could be a brand new character who is the Power Broker, that's not a bad idea. Like, I love Vincent D'Onofrio. That dude was born to play Wilson Fisk, but so no, he won't be Wilson Fisk. But I was saying earlier, I think the odds are that the Power Broker is probably somebody we've never met yet. Vincent D'Onofrio playing a new character, that I could see happening. And I would be excited about that. I would be excited about that, TJ. I don't know, but I mean, it would be pretty fun. It seems pretty fun to me. All right, Jeremy Shaw writes, and tips in like $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Appreciate that, dude. Hey, John, thank you and the crew for being awesome. Thank you so much, man, for the kind words. Always enjoy your show, and I hope Isaiah and Old Man Cap get to meet and shake hands before the season is over. Dude, that would just be such a great season of television. Now, somebody was saying earlier, wouldn't it be awesome if like Isaiah and Old Man Cap like team up and kick some ass in it? Dude, I'm going to completely soil my pants if that happens. That'll be so awesome. But even just them meeting, shaking hands, because, Isaiah would be like thrilled to meet Steve Rogers, and Steve Rogers would be honored to meet once he understands who and what. Because remember, Steve doesn't know anything about Isaiah at this point. But if he was able to meet him, and that would be such a great scene of television, dude. That would be such a great scene of television. Obviously, wouldn't happen probably in episode 5, if anything, probably during the prologue at the end of episode 6, but we'll see where they go. All right. Mega Neonova writes, hey, John, Henry Cavill walked around New York with a shirt saying Superman and nobody approached him, yet everyone recognizes Sam. Seems unrealistic to me. I get nonsense. Henry Cavill is some actor. This is an Avenger who literally saved the world a couple of times, including, helped in the battle that brought back 3 billion people and then stopped an alien god from destroying all life in the universe. It's a different level, man. It's a different level. All right. Ian Michael writes, what are the chances Zemo starts the Masters of Evil or we get Mo eventually? I don't see Zemo. No, like things like the Masters of Evil, things like the Legion of Doom. These are things you can put in cartoons and in comic books, but come on, no human being is going to give themselves that name. Right? So no, I don't see that happening. I think there are a lot of interesting things that they could do with Zemo, Ian. I really do. But I honestly think it's going to end with the Dora Milaje taking him, but not executing him, but leaving it open-ended for stuff they could do with him later if they want. But I suppose anything is possible. All right. Jim Mason writes, Power Broker could be Justin Hammer. Again, like I said, that makes no sense to me. They portrayed Justin Hammer as an absolute boob in the MCU so far. So him being the power broker to me seems very unlikely, not to mention he's in prison. So there are several levels of that make it seem unlikely to me, but you never know. But hey, if Sam Rockwell was coming into the MCU, like coming back into the MCU, I think that would have been a news headline somewhere, but hey, let's see what they do. All right. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, starts with a war flashback, Saving Private Ryan-esque, with John Walker and Lamar, then hard cuts to John Walker about to speak at Lamar's funeral. Maybe maybe not the funeral part, but yeah, I could see an opening of a flashback reinforcing the brotherhood between Lamar and John, and then forward cut to John going back in the warehouse and holding the body of his dead friend. And that's when Sam and Bucky come walking in. That could be powerful. I like that idea, Hank. I like that idea a lot. All right, next up, Jim Early writes, hey, John, what do you think about Nick Fury being Power Broker? Yeah, somebody brought that up earlier today on the John Campea Show. I don't like the idea at all. That is, why would he be a judge, jury, executioner and running an underground crime thing and having people eliminated? I don't see it. He would have the agency intelligence and global contacts needed. Again, that's all logistics. The ground thing is that the Power Broker is an evil presence, right? So I don't see them doing that. I do not see him being that at all. Now, maybe Sharon Carter is working for Nick Fury, but I don't see any reality. How do you narratively explain Nick Fury being an underworld crime lord, having people executed and shot and what? Like, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that makes sense. By the way, Meghan Markle in the live chat is saying the girl who plays Carly's a terrible actress. I don't know what the fuck show you're watching. I think she's been terrific. I think she's an absolutely terrific actress. I think she's doing a really good job. She's making me buy in to this character a lot, but hey, it's to each their own. It's all subjective, I suppose. All right, next up. I don't suppose it is all subjective, but I think that girl's been doing an incredible job playing that role. Anyway, where are we at here? We're at Just Your Average Joe writes, what if they troll us fans and give us literally an old man in a cap instead of old man cap? An old man in a hat instead of old man cap. Yeah, you'd be getting some very upset people online, my friend, and I, for one, would be one of them. All right, Bullet 1510 writes, Bullet 1510 writes, could the Power Broker be a secondary persona for the Mandarin leading into the Shang-Chi movie? Again, what's the connection? What's the connection between Falcon or Bucky and the upcoming Shang-Chi movie? It would be completely random. And what we have found is that most of these theories that are like completely random out of nowhere theories don't usually end up working out. So no, I don't think they're going to play that. I mean, I get it. Mandarin is Asian. This takes place in Asia, or Madripoor's in Asia, but it really does seem like a massively random thing. I don't see any connective tissue between this and Shang-Chi, so I'm going to guess it's unlikely. Possible, of course. Likely, I don't think so, but hey, you never know. Crazier things have happened, Bullet. All right, J Meister 25 writes, saw a Toyota with the license plate Hex 6666. Mephisto drives Japanese confirmed. And everything, the reality is everything is going to be Mephisto. We're going to hear Mephisto, Mephisto, Mephisto until they finally bring him into the MCU. Even if he doesn't come in for like another 10 years, everything's going to be Mephisto. We're all going to be joking about it till then. All right. K. Munoz writes, over under 50% that there are post-credit scenes in the last 2 episodes. I will go 90%. I will go 90% that both of the final 2 episodes will have post-credit scenes. I think they'll definitely do one tonight to lead into the final episode, and then obviously one tailing out of the final episode. So I will go, again, I don't know, but I will go over 90% that we're going to get post-credit scenes for the next 2 things. All right, John Chung writes, James Rhodes makes another cameo, says to Sam, really, Smiling Tiger? Hey, listen, I think it's very possible we could see him back, that we could see Rhodey back. I think it's very, very possible that we see him back here again in the last 2 episodes. And wouldn't that line be, if he would say, anybody ever tell you look like Smiling Tiger? That would be a pretty funny line, John. That would be a pretty funny line. All right, Charles A. writes, Smiling Tiger picture, I think is of, oh, sorry, it's jumping around a bit. Did I miss? Oh, I did. I accidentally went over Charles. Sorry. Smiling Tiger picture, I think, is of Anthony Mackie. And I believe it's also to mention the negative stereotype that all black people look alike. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously it was Anthony Mackie. At least to me, at least I think that's pretty obvious. That was a picture of Anthony Mackie. I don't think it was to be a stereotype that all people look alike. We've seen lots of shows and everything say, propose dead ringers for each other. I don't think it was that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was that. All right, JB at C writes, hey, John, I do believe Isaiah and Steve may meet at the trial of John Walker, hence the scene with John in his army dress uniform. See, I don't know. Remember somebody was saying earlier they don't know if there's enough time left to wrap up everything? I think introducing a huge thing like the trial of John Walker, I don't know. That seems like a stretch. I don't know. With just 2 episodes left, that seems like a pretty big major thing to introduce with only 2 episodes left. But you never know. You never know. Personally, I think the government is going to back him up. But I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they do try to hold him accountable. All right. Next up. And our final question of the day, guys. Yeah, guys, don't send in any more. We're going to wrap it up right now. So don't send in any more super chats. We're going to wrap it up here with this, with Amin. And Amin writes, if Stan Lee was still around, do you think he would have cameoed in each episode of these shows? No. Or only one per episode? I would have loved to have seen him in WandaVision. No, I definitely don't think, that he would be like pop up in every single episode. That would just that's oversaturation. That wouldn't make any sense. So no. But would he have cameoed in the series? That I absolutely do believe. So, but in every single episode, no, that would just become distracting. That would honestly become a distraction, and I don't think that would work. So, but in each series, yeah, he would have made an appearance, probably as one of the townsfolks in WandaVision, probably one of the guys in the bar in Madripoor, if he was there. It's fun to kind of guess, where would Stan Lee, if the great Stan Lee were still with us, where would he have made his cameo? But yeah, as one of the town people in WandaVision, probably as one of the guys in the bar in Madripoor. I think those would have been perfect spots for him. All right, Raymond Verada did get this slipped in. He says, I'm avoiding this article on Yahoo claiming a Marvel leak that an X-Men character is making a cameo, avoiding everything else tonight. I doubt it, but we are getting closer and closer to the 5-year thing. Remember, Kevin Feige said 5 years. We're over 3 years into that now, right? We're over 3 years into that. Is it possible? Sure, especially if it's some obscure X-Men character. Like, I highly doubt we're going to see Professor X or we're going to see, Wolverine or anything like that. I wouldn't doubt Kevin Feige maybe having some more obscure, like maybe even like a Caliban or something like that popping up. So we'll see. All right, guys, that'll do it for this installment of the Falcon and Winter Soldier pre-game show for episode 5 that's coming tonight. I am so excited about the episode. We're going to find out a lot of the things we thought were wrong, a lot of the things that we thought were right. We will find out tonight, at least for me it's tonight. For many of you it'll be tomorrow morning. Tonight at midnight we're going to find out my time. And then of course tomorrow, guys, don't forget, come back and join us again. 4 p.m. Pacific time, that's 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, or 7 p.m. New York time. We'll be doing our Falcon and Winter Soldier open spoiler discussion for episode 5. Hope to see you guys there. Guys, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to all of you who sent in your observations, your thoughts, your theories, and your questions. Not only did you give us great fun things to talk about, but you also supported my channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the John Campea YouTube channel. Thank you guys for that support. Okay, guys, don't forget, tomorrow morning, we got the John Campea Show, and then, of course, in the later afternoon, we're going to have our open spoiler discussion for Falcon and Winter Soldier. We hope to see you at both of those things. Remember, guys, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.